Hi, good day to all. This is Kelvin here. Welcome to today's edition of Earnings Watch. Where I'll be focusing on Microsoft and Apple from a technical analysis perspective. Well, before we get started, let's take a look at the disclaimer slides first. All right, good. So as we know that this week will be a pretty much big week for US big tech firms, as this is their earnings week where they actually release their earnings report. Microsoft will kickstart first today after the close of the US session, followed by Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook up this Thursday, also at the close of the US session. Now, let's take a look at the technical chart of Microsoft and Apple that I'll be focusing today. So, we focus on Microsoft first. Okay, let's take a look at the longer term chart on Microsoft. So, this particular is a monthly chart in log where actually we could see that over here is that Microsoft, the long term bullish circular uptrend remains intact since March 2009 low. As what's interesting over here, I want to highlight in the longer term technical elements is that the recent March sell off, it managed to find support at the pullback of the former ascending channel and as well as the lower boundary of a ascending channel that was drawn from the low of August 2015. And another element I would like to highlight will be the recent all-time high that was printed in September, which is at 232.86. What it did over here is it actually retraced or retreated off the upper boundary of this channel. So what we could see over here is that potentially it may start to shape a kind of a deeper pullback to actually test this support level, which is the former swing high of February 2020 at 181.45. In the longer term perspective over here, as we know that the longer term uptrend remains intact, the longer term key resistance to watch will be at this cluster level at 27270/283, which is derived by the upper boundary of the ascending channel as well as a Fibo extension cluster. Now, let's move on to the medium term, which is on the daily chart. So, while focusing on the daily chart over here is that let's take a look at any potential price pattern that is forming. What we could see over here is the three pin box that I draw, which is actually telling us that we could actually start to see a kind of a head and shoulders a bearish reversal formation that is in place since its current all-time high, which is in September, and the neckline support of the head and shoulder lines at 19750. What we could see over here is that price momentum as depicted by the daily RSI is kind of lackluster as well, as now try to dip below. Actually, it has really dipped below the 50 level, and potentially what we could see over here is that we may start to see a push down on the shorter term. We're talking about from a multi-day to multi-week perspective to kind of retest or the 19750 neckline support. A break below this support could actually take us much lower towards 182/70/18145. Still we call the 18145, which is actually drawn on the monthly chart. And what's interesting about this 18145/18250 actually correspond to a Fibo cluster, which is the 50% retracement from the March 2002 low all the way to the all-time high, and as well as a 1.236 Fibo projection from the all-time high projected from here. All right, then to actually maintain this bearish bias, 225.08 medium term resistance got to hold. Any break above 225.08 will actually invalidate this bearish scenario to see a retest of 232.86, which is the current all-time high. So what we could see is that yesterday price action was pretty bearish, pretty deep. Potentially, given this very sharp push down, we could see actually a retest or a kind of a snapback rally potentially to actually go up to 213.25. So why do I say so? Because if we were to actually examine on the hourly chart, so allow me to switch to the hourly chart, which is 1 hour time frame over here. All right. So based on the Elliott wave or a Fibonacci, we call it analysis or fractal analysis approach, what we could see from this swing high from the 14th of October high of this 225.08, what we could see is that it starts to actually trace down in a five-wave down movement, one, two, three, four, five. And what interestingly over here is that yesterday movement on the close to the close, it actually formed a bullish hammer, and the hourly RSI start to bounce off from a oversold level. And if I could actually do a Fibo projection or a Fibo extension from the high, we could see over here is actually nicely off a fifth wave target at 61.8. So potentially what we could actually see over here is that given this current very short-term oversold position coupled with a Fibo fifth wave target of a five wave down move, we could potentially see a kind of a snapback rally to actually retest this 213.25 maximum towards this 216 level, which we could draw a Fibo retracement from here, which is close to the 50% as well. All right, great. So overall, what we could see over here for Microsoft is that in a very short term, we may see a bounce off first towards a 213.25, pardon me, slash 216, before the risk of another down leg to actually retest or test this 19750 neckline support of that head and shoulder formation. All right. So now let's move on to Apple next. Okay, Apple. All right, so Apple, I'll actually start off with a longer term chart as well, which is I'll start to draw on this in log on the monthly chart from the low of 2 March or January 2009, where the circular bullish trend remains intact. So if you look at Apple, is much more positive in their longer term chart in terms of Microsoft, because the recent all-time high, which is at printed in September at 137.90, hasn't actually tested the upper boundary of this long-term ascending channel, which is at 205.80 slash 208.35, also defined by a Fibonacci extension cluster level. So what we could see is that the support lines at this 77.30, which is the former swing high of February 2020, as well as close to the lower boundary of this long-term ascending channel. And another highlight I want to highlight to you is the monthly RSI. So if you look at the monthly RSI, yes, it's overbought, but it has not reached an extreme overbought level at 85, where if you look at the previous peak, it actually coincide with this extreme overbought when we start to see a significant pullback, as well as a significant pullback over here in January 2008, which is actually during the subprime crisis. So overall, RSI remains positive, overbought, but hasn't reached an extreme overbought level, which is at 85, where we may start to see a more significant pullback on Apple. Now let's move on to the shorter term or medium term horizon, which is on the daily chart of Apple. Okay, so what is interesting on the highlight some positive element on the medium term to shorter term is if you look at yesterday's sell-off. So yesterday's sell-off has managed to bounce off from this lower boundary of this ascending channel that was drawn off from the low of March 2002. And very interestingly over here is that the sell off that actually or that pullback that took shape from this high of 13th of October actually managed to retrace off the 61.8% retracement. So let me draw the Fibonacci retracement, taking from the last push up or the last swing low of this 21st of September 2002. If we draw all the way up to the recent high, we could see that it's actually at nicely at 61.8% Fibonacci retracement. Okay, so let me delete this. So what we could see potentially over here is that we have a couple of two confluence, we call it elements that actually supporting this 116.60 level. So I'll label this 116.60 level as a key medium term support to actually hold this ongoing uptrend, which is depicted by this ascending channel from the low of March 2002 low. And I have an upside trigger level, which is at this 120.42, which is the former this swing high of 10 September 2002. Previously, it attempted to did a bullish breakout from here, but after that, it failed and starts to shape this pullback. So, in order for the bulls to actually have a more pronounced price action to the upside, it got to break above this 120.42. A break above this level potentially could take us higher towards this 130.60, which is actually close to the upper boundary, pardon me, close to the medium term, this middle line channel, the median of this ascending channel, as well as a Fibonacci extension level. If I could draw it from the low from here, take it here, project to yesterday low, is give you 76.4. All right, from here, let me delete it off. Okay, so all in all, it's Apple price action seems to be much more positive compared to Microsoft, as long as this 11160 medium term key medium term pivotal support holds. at a break above 1240.42 should take us up to higher towards 130.60. Otherwise, if we start to see a daily close below 111.60, where we might start to see a deeper pullback to at least touch this retest this 93.30, which is also the former gap up that was actually formed on 31st of July, which was actually created prior to the previous earnings report, and also the 50% retracement of the entire up move of this recent medium term uptrend from March 2020 low all the way up to the current all-time high at 2nd September 2020. All right, guys. So that's all I have for today's earnings watch session. So I wish you all a good trading day ahead.